we wanted to jump into kind of just going through our thoughts and emotions with inauguration and how we feel about the new administration coming in and getting a handle on some things that haven't been handled properly in the last 4 years.
Yeah, the last 4 years and 1 month, 2 months, how many months?
Right.
It was horrific, y'all.
It was absolutely, and we have been the laughing stock of the entire planet, not just here in the U.S. or in North America. It's people been. I just feel like people have just been laughing at us. Everybody
Yeah.
is. Everybody.
I don't think they were taking us seriously because it was like we elected a clown as a whole. I mean,
Right.
I can't say it wasn't me. We as an American people elected a clown, and it's like, how can you take us seriously with this clown in office doing all these clownish behind things?
And best believe it was a circus. No tiger, no bears, maybe Tiger King, but that's the most. That's the most we with tigers and lions and bears. Oh my! But we have a fresh start with a very diverse and colorful administration. We have our first, besides Joe Biden, of course, being in the presidential seat, we have our first woman of color as vice president, which to me, I kind of felt like just gave us renewed confidence. I don't know if anybody else felt that way, but just watching the whole thing to me was so refreshing. It was so much to watch, and I normally don't sit and watch the inauguration. I really hate politics, to be honest. The past 4 years, I felt like it would just give me a migraine to watch and to accept what was really going on in this country. So it was
not only just the vice president and the president being changed over, as like the whole cabinet being changed, you know, Betsy DeVos being gone on the education. And I was watching, because you know me, I love CNN. I was watching just when they were talking about the cabinet nominees and stuff, and there was a guy who stood out to me. I think he was who was appointed to be like the director of the EPA or something, and he was from North Carolina. I think he was a fellow HBCU alum, and he said something to me that, not to me because he wasn't talking to me. He said something in his speech that was so like poignant to me, that as a young boy he would go hunting and fishing and stuff like with his father and his grandfather, and he had an early inclination to want to be a part of the EPA. And now here he is as the director of the EPA, and he's like the first Black man to ever head this up. And I'm like, not only are little girls looking at Kamala and, you know, looking at all these other appointees, but young Black boys are looking up and like, hey, you know, these are things that I love to do. I love hunting and fishing. I love protecting the environment. And now they see somebody who looks like them in those positions.
Yeah, absolutely. That's an awesome story. And I love to hear that because it gives not just the kids, it gives the adults hope too.
It does.
Like I said, it was just so overwhelming, and I got chills just watching the whole thing. But to see our people, Georgia has the first Black senator. Like, I don't know. I'm really speechless. I feel like now we're finally at a point. There's still a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, but it's like you can see some of it happening.
Right.
And that's hopeful.
It is. Because at one point I felt like there was no hope. I felt like especially last year. You know, we continue to deal with the injustice in the street with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and all these things. And it's like, for a long time, I'm like, when is enough enough? When they started to change, like the whole Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben's and stuff like that.
Yeah, because it started affecting their bottom line.
Right.
More so than, let's get behind this power to the people movement.
And my question was, why did it take this? Why now? Like we've been at this point. We've been an oppressed people as a whole. Why now? Just because
I think
y'all finally get it?
2020 was like the precipice of, of everything happening. So, again, while it's great that we have a new administration, they've made a lot of promises to a lot of different people, a lot of different interest groups, So we can't all get our 20 acres and a mule right off the bat. So who's first? Who's up at bat first? That's what I'm really looking forward to seeing, like how they handle that. And because there's so many crises that are here that were left in their lap, it's like, am I going to really be mad if Black issues aren't the first issues that they attack when we have a whole pandemic going on?
Right.
Am I going to really be mad if, mandatory minimum sentencing isn't the first thing that they attack when people can't seem to get a vaccination if they want it? You know what I mean?
Right. And I really think the pandemic just kind of spotlight on the healthcare disparities. So even though, yes, we're in the middle of a pandemic, it's still, even with that, even with COVID-19, we're still looking at those discriminations with healthcare and how Black people and Native American and Hispanic people are more likely to become ill from COVID-19 and even die from it. So in a way, I still feel like that should be addressed with addressing the pandemic. Like you said, are we going to get it first? That's a part of us, of us going, us as a country moving forward with healthcare across the board, pandemic or no pandemic. So
because like I said, there's so many things. Because while we're fighting COVID, people are still dealing with sickle cell. People are still dealing with cancer. People are still dealing with lupus. People are still dealing with all these things, kidney disease, all these things, and now COVID on top of that. Like, I was listening to the radio today on my way home, and they were talking about a family who, like, the whole family had COVID, like from mom, dad to children, and the father has been on dialysis and on the list for a kidney transplant for like 7 years, and is now fighting COVID. So here's another Black family dealing with healthcare disparities, and now COVID on top of that.
Top of it. It's a lot. It's, oh my gosh, it's a lot. And I cannot imagine experiencing that as the loved one of someone that has already been on a kidney transplant list, and now you're dealing with this scary, uncertain virus that's going around that seems to honestly be getting worse. Not just because people can't stay in the house, but because there are new strains coming out. It's contagious. It's
the mortality rate is higher.
Right.
All of those things. It's like, here we are thinking that like we're right at the peak, right? We're about to bend this curve, and we can start doing our regular things and going back out to eat, and all those kinds of things. And it's like, nah, it's a variant strain out here, and it's worse. And you can get it easier, and it does this and that and the other thing. So it's like, what are we supposed to do? Like, we can't stay in the house. We can't go outside.
Right.
The only good thing to me right now is that at least we have another administration, and we have a next moment to get it right.
Hopefully we get it right soon. But yes, when I when I did the workshop over the weekend, one of the doctors said we may not be out of this for another 2 years. And
Oh, jeez, don't tell me that. I just had a panic attack real quick.
that's the sad part because everybody is so anxious because of the new variant, and it's like I already feel like it's everywhere. I feel like I can't escape it even in the house. Yes, I can wear my double mask, I can sanitize, I have sanitizer in the car, I have hand wipes in the car, I have all this stuff, but it's still like I can't
But
escape
it's
it.
still in the air. I mean, and when I got it, I was in the hospital, and I'm not gonna stop saying that. When I
Don't.
got it, I was in the hospital, and I'm being safe. You know what I mean? And I'm talking to the nurses, and they're like, "You can be as safe as you want to be. If you're gonna get it, you're gonna get it." Like, just kind of saying that to me, I'm like, why would you say that to me? Like, that doesn't make me feel better about the situation. It
Yeah.
doesn't make me feel safer. It doesn't make me feel less panicky, less anxious. But I mean, it's truth in that. So it's in the air, and people are out here. And even though we have this 100-day mask mandate, everyone's not going to do it just because we live in America, land of the free, home of the brave, where you can't, you know, make me do anything. Like, that's a real American trait. You want to talk again, you guys? Sorry. That's a real American trait where we don't like being told what to do. That's why people in other countries probably don't like us,
Right.
because we're arrogant.
Yeah.
And
And
that
still,
same arrogance is what is getting us killed, like, by the 400,000 plus.
right. Right. And like you mentioned that the why do I keep saying $100? 100-day mask mandate it's absolutely not enough. That would the mask mandate supposedly is has been there, but still it nobody is abiding by that. You still go to places in the grocery store where you need to go to get food or anything else, especially at Walmart. People are not abiding by that. So
Right.
how would that be mandated? I really think that we should have been shut down again. I know people hate to hear that, but that's the only way I feel like we can get some type of control. Everybody be
I
in time.
actually agree with
Everybody
you. I
everybody
mean,
sit down. Everybody in time out.
right. I
Just sit
actually agree with you. And I know that that's like kind of not what people want to hear.
down.
People want to be like, okay, I'm over it, so it's over. But we need to all sit down for 100 days, I guess, because just merely wearing a mask and washing your hands isn't going to keep it from circulating in the air. It's not going to keep it from spreading on surfaces or what have you. And I mean, I'd rather have to sit down and only be able to go out for essentials and know that my family and my loved ones are safe,
Yeah.
as opposed to being able to go out everywhere and eat out and do, the things that I enjoy doing. These are
Right.
things that I enjoy doing. So I'm willing to sacrifice those things.
Yeah. Me as well. Because we are still unsure with the vaccine. We as in sickle cell awareness 365. We're still unsure with that because there's no certainty with the actual virus. So it's like, okay, what's up with the vaccine? It's just so many unanswered
Question.
questions, so much uncertainty with the virus alone and with the vaccine and how this new administration is going to handle it outside of 100-day mask
I mean, I
mandate.
know that's the benchmark for presidents. Like, what have they done in their first 100 days? I know that's like the thing when they take office. Well, what does he accomplish in his first 100 days? So they come in, guns blazing, like it's a Western shoot 'em up. You know what I'm saying? They come in, all of that, and it's like, okay, now is everybody gonna work with you on these
Mhm.
policies that you have and whatnot? And then I I I'm sorry, you guys. I went to the doctor today, and I was supposed to have had a lab test to determine whether or not I had the antibodies.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to the lab, special trip to the lab and all, and I get back my results and I can't read them. And I'm like, shouldn't it just say, I have the antibodies are not positive or negative? Like, shouldn't it be just that easy to read?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm questioning, the results that I'm reading, because I'm like, okay, I know what a BMP is. I know what a CBC is. That doesn't say COVID antibody test. Turns out they didn't even do the test. They never even did the test. So I'm here in my chart looking at my mobile results, and I'm like, I still don't know. Do I have antibodies or not?
Right.
And so now I have to take a whole new trip down to the lab and be like, you guys messed up. And now I have to be in this place where you gave me COVID in the first place to have you test me to know if I have. That's a cluster bunch.
Say it. Oh, you can't say that one. Dang. Okay. Cluster
That's a
fudge.
cluster bunch.
It is, and it's such an inconvenience for us to still have to be able to access the hospitals given everything that's going on. My pharmacy is in the hospital, and what annoys me is not only having to go up there during all this mess, there's only one entrance I can go in. The parking is absolutely bananas. But I feel like I'm being exposed by simply walking in there to get my medication. And
Right.
yet, if I want it shipped to my house, there's a fee. And it ain't a cheap fee necessarily, but it's still like I don't want to pay that extra for y'all to ship it because y'all are inconveniencing me. I don't risk by walking in here going to get my medication for something that I need. So
they should definitely not charge you for that.
shipping.
They should make that part of their offering at this point in time.
Exactly.
If you order food, why can't you get your medicine delivered?
Right. For free.
Right.
So it's such an inconvenience. I've even changed to get most of my medications from the local pharmacy I can just drive through because I'm so uncomfortable walking into that hospital just to get my medication. And it's just been a real inconvenience for people who have not just sickle cell, but any illness that compromises their health. It's an inconvenience for us.
Yeah, it is. And I just think that, I have other medications that I take that get delivered. And, those, I guess it's a free delivery for me, but the cost of the medication is so much. It better be free.
Yeah. 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 That need to be included in the medication.
Right. If the medication is going to cost me $900, shipping and handling better be free. It should come with a cupcake or a donut from Sublime Donuts or something. I don't know.
A gift card.
It should come with something. And I
than
know Sublime isn't our sponsor, but I'm gonna speak that into fruition.
that's okay. We gonna get Sublime on donuts for everybody. You know how I feel about Sublime and feeling like it is the cure all for everything.
It really is. I mean, it's not, especially if you have diabetes. So please don't be like, SCA 365 said Sublime cure everything. Nah, don't do that, dog, because that don't even try to play us like that.
Right. Your blood. We are not doctors. We
just say what we feel.
Right. And Sublime is the ish. But I do think and hope that the healthcare overall, as far as access to healthcare, because that has been one of the issues in our community, getting appropriate health care, quality, let's say quality health care. Um, Mainly because we're Black, because we're people of color. We don't get the same treatment. And that is one of the things that Dr. King spoke about of all the injustices. Why can't I say that? Healthcare was the most inhumane. And I completely believe that, given not just my personal experiences with me and with other people, I've witnessed it all too often. So I hope that with this new administration, that can change a little bit. I know it's not going to change overnight. It probably won't change in the 4 years that
No,
Biden and Harris are there.
I don't
But
see that happening. But it would be good if it was at least a step in the right direction.
exactly.
This is so random. Again, excuse my ADHD because it's not on topic.
It's all right. It's okay.
I was on Facebook the other day, and someone asked a question. One of my Facebook friends asked a question about whether or not when you're in the hospital you wear their gowns or whether you wear your clothes. My Facebook friend Tynesha, I want to give her credit for that. I don't want her to think I'm stealing her topic.
Okay.
But she asked that question, and I was like, I always wear my own clothes. Yeah. And she was, I guess, I don't know the details of it, but I guess they were telling her that if she didn't wear a gown, she was subject to being put out of the hospital. So it just leads me to talk about, I'm getting around, I'm circling back to my point about how a lot of times when we speak up for ourselves in the hospital, when we're experiencing disparities or injustices, how they throw something like, oh, it's a rule or it's a regulation at us in order to quiet us. But in fact, we know our rights, and we know, because we've been in and out of hospitals our whole lives, we know what's true and what's not. So you speaking about the injustices and the disparity just made me think about that. I'm like, unless you're getting a procedure, like some kind of surgical procedure or something like that, I don't understand why you would be threatened with being removed from the hospital for wanting to be comfortable in your own clothes because you're uncomfortable in your own skin.
Right. I've never heard that before. And I don't even know how I would react if I was told that, because we, like you said, we know our rights. Not wearing my own clothes, the gown don't cut it. And plus, I don't want to wear that.
I'm cold. It makes me
exactly.
It's warm enough, and that contributes to my stay because I'm cold.
Exactly. With the back open, especially most of the time, if I'm in there, it's my back or my legs that's giving me problems. So you giving me a gown that opens up in the back with all that air, even if I put on another one
on the front and one on the back.
Right. It's
thin.
Yes.
And sometimes it has stains on it.
Right. They didn't wash it good enough. Just give me a new one. Give me one out the pack if that's the case.
They're stiff.
Right. And we already don't want to be there. We definitely don't want to wear y'all nasty gowns.
Right. Let me be comfortable in when I'm comfortable in, because my skin is probably crawling, and like I like to take like the things that feel good on my skin, because sometimes it just hurts to touch me. Yeah. So if I can have something that's like fleece or whatever and that feels good on my skin, let me have that.
Yeah. It's like it's so many stipulations that it seems like they're trying to put. I haven't been admitted in the hospital in over a year, thank God, because my last hospitalization was super traumatizing, even though it wasn't. Say that again.
I said traumatic.
Yeah, even though it wasn't necessarily with the gown, just the people I encountered and my experience as a whole. And sometimes the discrimination comes from us, people who look like us.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
comments and stuff, it comes from people who look like us. So it's like, where are they getting this information and this rudeness and these stereotypes from?
And it's always seemed to be like in my case, it's always something like a rule that they've made up. Like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
we can't do this. Oh, it's against the rules to do that. I'm like, okay, if it's against the rules today, why wasn't it against the rules yesterday? Why, when I had this nurse who has seen me 50 times before, was it not a problem?
Right.
If it's a problem, it's a problem across the board. It
But
shouldn't just be a
mhm.
problem with you or with her or with him. And don't tell me that something you can't do something when I've had your charge nurses before and they've done it for me.
Right. It's just an excuse, like you said, for them not to do what they're supposed to be doing. Don't
Like,
throw
show
these.
me the rule book.
Right. Right. Give me somebody in authority who tells me it's, and like you said, show me the rule, bring the rule book with you.
Right. I don't care
That,
how thick it is. I know how to read.
right. And comprehend at that, not just read. And if I don't understand, I know how to ask questions. And I can
But
tell
stuff
if
like
you
that, it makes me wonder, like our counterparts of the lighter complexion, do they deal with that same sort of thing too? Like, just like, oh no, it's against the rules for this, it's against the rules for that, or do they bend over backwards for? I don't know, because I'm not in a white person's body to know.
yeah. Yeah.
And I'm hella curious.
Yeah. I no comment on that. I think they just have a whole completely different experience all the way around.
I
Um,
think so too. Like, maybe there's a rule book for them and a rule book for us.
it ain't legit. I mean,
No, they still
in
working
their
with
head
Jim
is the
Crow
rules.
rules.
In their head, they're gonna give us rules because we have more melanin than like you said, our counterparts. So that discrimination and that thought process has been
What
there
needs to
just.
change?
Yes. And that's what's been there. That's what created, like I tell people, they fight the injustices in the street that's been going on since we got over here. We fight it in the medical system. It's been going back to slavery when they would take our women and do experimental stuff on them because we
Have
are
a
able
higher
to.
tolerance for pain. Don't
Right,
feel pain the same.
right.
So
So
then you do it without anesthesia. That's
right,
barbaric.
it is. And even though it's not, well, I can't even say it's not that extreme, because how long ago was Henrietta Lacks when they just took her? I was about to say something, but
Barbaric.
yes, yes. So it's like, what I wouldn't be surprised if it's certain things, certain barbaric things that we don't necessarily hear about now, but it's still going on.
I
It
think
wouldn't.
some of the ways that some of our warriors are treated in the hospital, even today, currently in 2021, are barbaric. I do believe so. I believe that if you do not give someone Benadryl, IV Benadryl, when they are asking for it because they are itching from taking medication, I think that's barbaric. And I don't care who hears that. It is. My skin is literally crawling. I'm literally scratching my skin till it's raw, bleeding, and red. That's barbaric for you to let your patient stay like that because you can't do that. You
And
can't give it to them.
or to even tell you they don't feel comfortable giving you certain medications even when your doctor has wrote the orders for it, or even when they can clearly see in your record beforehand what type of medications they give you, just for them to say, to not give you the medication because they fear or they feel uncomfortable.
Right. I mean, and you know what? I'm okay enough for you to say, hey, I feel uncomfortable. Okay, you feel uncomfortable. Noted. Find someone else who doesn't feel uncomfortable because it's in my chart.
Yeah.
So for you to not do it again is barbaric.
Yeah.
It's written in my chart that I can get certain medications together, and I still have to fight for them to give them to me together. That's barbaric. You're treating me like a prisoner, like an inmate.
Yeah. Yeah. We call it hospital jail. And unfortunately, even though we give that a nickname, that's really what it feels
That's
like.
really what it feels like.
3 meals
I
in a
mean,
cup.
I don't want to say, I don't want to be like, yeah, I did my bid, da 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 da, because there are people who have done 20, 25 years in jail, and that's disrespectful to them. But it is a certain type of
Prison.
and it's a certain type of lockdown on my freedoms.
Yeah. And don't let you be chained to the bed. That's, or not even necessarily chained, but when you step out the bed and the alarm goes off and they're notified of you've gotten out of the bed, even that to an extent is imprisonment. Like,
Yeah, and to talk about that, I had a moment in the hospital where I was getting a blood transfusion and I had the alarm on the bed. So they have like the blood transfusion pole, the IV pole, they have the computer in there because they're taking my blood pressure and stuff every 15 minutes or whatever. So they got the blood pressure cuff on me. They got the pulse oximeter on my finger. And they're like, hey, if you have to go to the restroom, hit the button. Okay, I hit the button. No one comes. And now you have all this stuff packed right around me. So I have to go to the restroom. Like, I have to go, and I can't move all this stuff in time to go to the bathroom. And I'm ringing the thing and ringing the thing, and they're like, someone's coming, someone's coming. It just so happened that one of my doctors, who Mr. Don't Play, came in there and was like, what is going on? Like, why isn't anybody in here? And they came running and rushing. But again, what if he wasn't there?
it shouldn't have to take that. It should not have to take all of that for them to respond. It
I'm a
really could have
human
been
being.
anything. Huh?
Like, I'm a human being. Like, why would you treat me like that?
Because you're black.
You said it. I didn't. You said the truth.
I mean, that's just, you asked. We know the answer. It's unfortunate. It's super unfortunate. And I think I have a hard time accepting where we are in 2021 and even before, because I'm in my mind, I'm like, we should be so far ahead of where we actually are. We
Yeah.
should not still be having these problems. We should not still be fighting this same fight. It gets discouraging because to a certain degree, we don't see change. We see small little bitty tiny change.
Incremental changes, but
Right.
what
It's
we
not
really need to
enough.
see is an overhaul of the entire system. And systems historically here in America were built to hold us back.
Yeah. You think that would ever change?
Oh, I
Ever?
mean,
I don't think I would see
the
it in a time.
the optimist in me wants to say yes, it will, but the realist in me is like, no, maybe not in my lifetime, maybe not even in my son's lifetime, but maybe in his children's lifetime. The optimist in me wants to say that, but the amount of work and the amount of self-realization that has to happen in order for that change to happen, a systemic overhaul to happen, that is where, I mean, I think we're in a place where some people are starting to see where there's systemic problems, where things need to be fixed.
Yeah.
But I think we're in, in the Wiz when Evelyn, when they overthrow her and they're singing "Can't You Feel a Brand New Day." I
Mm-hmm.
think like we're in that part where people are just starting to strip off, some of those old thinking patterns that they had. But like in order for everything to change, the people who have been in power for so long, they have to die out and their seeds have to die out.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree with that because it's so instilled and it's so ingrained in their minds that and it's normal to them. Like this is just the way it is and accept that reality. But like I said, I have such a hard time accepting that reality. And it was going back to the inauguration that it gave us hope. It gave us a little, even if it was just minuscule and small advances to where I think we should be as a country. It's still hopeful, but it's still a realization that it's going to take a lot more than just having Georgia's black first
Yeah.
black or having our first woman of color as vice president. It's just the beginning, but it's still a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, absolutely. And someone asked how my breathing was affected when I had COVID in the hospital. I I've said before that I have pulmonary hypertension, so I already struggle with breathing on a normal basis. So when I had COVID in the hospital, um, was actually really blessed in that my symptoms were not as severe as they could have been, but I did have to have my oxygen turned up to a level that it's usually not. Usually I'm at like 2 liters, which is like a real good maintenance level for me. And we were up to like 6, 7 liters of oxygen while I had COVID. So it did take a toll on my breathing. And of course, it caused like unnecessary fatigue, like just crazy. And now I'm still dealing with lingering effects like fatigue, like I told you, um, to the point where it's difficult for me to stay awake all day, even if I have things to do. And my brain sometimes feels like I'm wading through oatmeal or mush or something, like not being able to get my words out or my thoughts out in completion. So a lot of times, like even now when we're having this conversation, there's ways I want to say things, but I can't get the words to come out the way I want them to come out. But I know enough words to kind of like finesse it a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, whoever
Are
asked that question, there you go.
are there lingering COVID effects when it comes to your breathing? Like, do you still have to have a high concentration while you're home?
It has been higher lately, and I don't know if and that's another thing that's frustrating because having pulmonary hypertension and having, COVID, sometimes now I'm not sure what's what. I don't know what's the pulmonary hypertension and what is the COVID lingering effects, because like if my blood count gets low, then I usually turn my oxygen up. And right now I'm in a place where my blood count is lower. So my oxygen is a little bit elevated right now in the house, but I am using it more often in the house. But you know me, I don't like to wear it out in the street. So I kind of suck it up and walk really slow outside.
Right, right. So yeah, people, because the focus is so much on the actual virus and the vaccine, I don't think there's enough talk about the lingering effects of COVID. And I started reading up on the lingering effects when you were telling me what was going on with the brain fog and just all of that is not It's not like the flu where you can get it, and once you get it and go through it,
and
then
it's over.
you'll find. Yeah, it's a virus that wants to stay around, wants to stick around and do numbers on whoever gets it. Just
Wherever this was cooked up, they did a good job of mixing because it is here and it is like, I'm here, I'm here, I'm doing my
a little bit of
thing.
this, a little bit of that. We're gonna put brain fog. We're gonna put breathing issues.
Like, too much.
It reminds me of that meme or that GIF where they pouring different stuff and it's like, oops,
Yeah, exactly.
a little bit too much of this. Oops, my bad.
So,
Yeah, it's there's still so much more to learn. And now of course we're in the time of whether we get the vaccine or whether we don't. Um, we don't know. At one point, I don't trust it. I don't want it. On the other hand, I want my freedoms, and I feel better traveling or doing stuff if I was vaccinated. But it's still so uncertain, and we have to be careful where we go, what we do. Like I said, I kind of feel like it's everywhere. Like I just feel like we can't escape it. Everybody has the cooties, and
this is what kind of cooties are you okay with?
even if you're not okay with it, you might just have to be okay with it because
What kind of cooties you got? No, I'm not okay with those.
so it's just like we have to be okay with it at a certain point because how long can we outrun it? Being in the house, the most you can go to is the mailbox. Curbside, even with curbside pickup, you feel safe with curbside pickup. But like you mentioned earlier, how long are we to be quarantined? How long are we to everybody gonna have so much anxiety once we get to a point and we can actually have and enjoy the freedoms we had before?
I'm sorry. I just had like a mental picture of them saying like, "Oh, clear. Everybody can come out of their homes now," and everybody coming out like,
Yes, scared. That's what it's gonna be. That's what it's gonna be like. I think at some point people, especially if you're a hugger type person, even now it feels like so withdrawn to not be able to hug anybody.
it's
You know
like,
how my family does. Yeah, it's like even the last place I went and saw my cousins, I was like elbow bump. He's like, "Oh, that's what we doing." Yeah,
yeah, because COVID out
right.
here,
And you go out and you
been out.
yeah. So we gonna have
Thank
to
God
elbow
for a
bump or
dog, because I can
something.
love on the dog. I know he's tired of me. Like,
He's
maybe
not.
give me another hug. Like, I
He ain't
can't
tired
have human interaction.
because he
Love
gonna
on
miss them.
me.
He missed them hugs while you were gone,
Yeah, he
while you
did.
in the hospital. So you know how he gets that separation
I don't
anxiety.
care. I'm hugging my son. He just gonna have to suck
Yeah,
it up.
yeah. So
We just do like a little side hug though.
it's gonna be a whole nother adjustment once we actually get to a point where we can go back to enjoying the freedoms. I think it'll always be because I don't think COVID is going anywhere, to be honest. I think at some point we'll have a better handle.
Yeah.
But I think with that is the mask probably won't be going nowhere. The social distances will be a new thing.
And it probably would be it'll probably just happen like organically, like,
Yeah.
well, I hope it happens organically because right now people are still not letting it happen organically. They're still a little too close sometimes, but I hope that that's something that kind of stays because I don't like when people are like all up on me in my space.
So what do you say to them, or how do you say it to someone
I
who
usually don't say anything. I just start making like my body, like I kind of stretch out my body to the point where My back leg will be extended as far as it can go. I'll put my arms out. I'll like create the space that I want. So I may not say anything. Sometimes I'll say excuse me, but a lot of times I just start creating my bubble.
So you doing all out like yoga moves in Walmart and Kroger or
I
something?
will do it.
Okay.
I
I've
will.
said something to somebody like in when I went to get like Chipotle or something like that or Walmart and they were standing too close. At first I looked at them. I gave them the eye warning like, you know, you don't,
That's
you
usually
don't see
like the
that
first
bubble.
thing.
Huh?
I said that's usually the first part.
Yeah, you don't see that on the floor, that mark on. Then if they still don't see it, I'm like, oh, you too close. You're a little bit too close. You're invading my space.
Yeah, I mean, there are times when I will say like, "Hey, excuse me," or 6 feet, please. Six
Right.
feet, please. Like
Right.
I've been known to yell that out at people, but people feel like they apologize when I make my space bigger. Like when I do that, because they'll end up inevitably hitting
Really.
me, walking into me, and I'm like, "You're in my space. Like this is all mine. This belongs
So,
to me."
right. They a lot of people don't understand personal boundaries and that personal bubble space. They were like that before COVID. So now that
True.
COVID, it's just we have to implement it more and
Yeah.
it's a mess. So I think this was a very interesting discussion on our hopes for the new administration, on our hopes going forward with healthcare, period, disparities, and just um, maybe trying to figure out how to deal with it. One
Yeah.
thing I did want to say is to report that was one of the things that Dr. King said is to take direct action instead of going to DC in his case. But we have to complain to the right people when we're not being treated right in the
That's
hospital.
true.
Don't take it home, and it's okay
Or
to
don't put it
complain.
on Facebook and then don't
Right.
follow the chain of
Follow up.
command.
Right. Don't just put it on Facebook like you said and you're not following up with what's going on or getting in contact with the right people. I know sometimes now you can put it on Twitter and tag the people,
Yeah.
but there still needs to be some type of consistency in that communication and making sure that the doctor, the nurse, or whomever does not treat anyone else like that and understand not just sickle cell patients, but just period, and learn how to have some more compassion and empathy. That's something we
Yeah.
talk about all the time. So we probably won't stop talking about it because it's an ongoing issue.
Oh, sorry. Um. Oh, Jesus. When talking about saying going through the proper chain of command and what have you, and not just putting things on Facebook, is the reason you want to do that is because you don't want to continue to allow them to treat you that way, because who knows how many days you're going to be hospitalized or incapacitated, and if there's no visitation, you don't have any family or whatever, you need to make sure that you're speaking up for yourself, because if you let one person slide, you can let two people slide, and that's not happening on my watch.
Right. Could nip it in the bud from jump. That way you ain't got to worry about the rest of them. Once they see you ain't playing with one, the others should know.
Like, oh, the patient in room 27, she bowed it.
Right. She let me come in there with my stuff together and knowing my stuff because she ain't playing.
And there's been times where I have completely like reamed a nurse respectfully, and then like apologize for maybe how it came out. And I'll be like, I'm not apologizing for what I said, but I'm apologizing for how I said it if you took it, offensively, but I meant what I said.
Well, I guess it would depend on the case because
It
sometimes I
depends
don't.
on like how agitated I am in the moment, because I know that sometimes in my agitation and my frustration, it may come out a little bit less tactful.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to, I don't mean for that to happen, but I absolutely mean what I'm saying to you.
Yeah. I was going to say, sometimes they don't deserve your text.
That's true too.
But I get it. I get it. I completely
Because
get
I
it.
don't want, the next sickle cell patient to come in and they be like, sickle cell patients are this, that, and the other. I want you to know that I'm serious about me. I'm serious about my health care, but I'm also not a biatch.
Yeah. Yeah. I can be when I'm not being treated right, but
Yeah, I feel like
we don't have to
make
want to
me
get
be
there.
that.
Say that again.
Don't make me have to come out that bag. I can and I
Right.
will.
Right.
But, I don't want you looking at me and then thinking that all patients are quick to anger or whatever, because, maybe you're having a bad day as a nurse. I can respect that.
Yeah.
But you also have to respect me. It's a two-way street. It's
It
respect both ways.
It is. It is. Don't push me because I'm close to the edge. So,
I
this
ain't
was
Matilda,
great.
but don't push me.
Right. So we want to thank our sponsors.
Yes.
Starting with Mr. Moore and the Apex Museum. Of course, it'll probably still be closed for a while because of the nature of where we are right now. But we are forever grateful for Mr. Moore and what he has done, will do, is doing for Sickle Cell Awareness 365 and the Sickle Cell community.
The sickle cell community at large. So.
Yeah. We also want to thank Miss Robinson with Kid Stop Daycare and Learning Center. Some of the kids in APS have gone back to physical school, so she is working hard to keep things safe at her daycare and learning center with the babies, with the kids. You go in there, you got to have your temperature check, your sanitizer, and you don't get too far, even as a parent. We gonna meet you with the kid at the door.
Stay safe, Tan. We love you.
Yes. And we want to thank Black Professional Network for everything that they have done. So make sure to follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook under SCA 365 or Sickle Cell Awareness 365. Make sure you also follow Manifest TV with Status Network. We want to thank Status Network for helping us with this podcast each and every Monday that we're here. Yeah. Each and every Monday that we're here. And we will see.
And also, if you haven't yet, look into the Mark Thomas Foundation for the virtual camp, escape retreat. It's been something that we started going to from the very first moment they opened it up. It's going to be virtual this year. It's a $20 registration fee. Mark Thomas Foundation in Houston. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm on the panel, y'all.
Yeah. She's on the panel, and guess who's hosting a painting chat? Whoa. Please stay tuned for next episodes. We have some goodies to share with y'all, but you have to come in for the next show to see what it is. So,
and you're gonna want them. So be here, be square.
All right, y'all. Have a good night.
Good night.